Welcome back everyone for another video. Today I'm going to go over the recent ban list that Bandai put up last week and going into effect this Friday. Go over my thoughts and opinions, what was good, what was bad. Anyway, let's get right into it. So here we have Bandai's limited and restricted list. If you want to look over the list yourself and see the Bandai's descriptions of it, I will leave a link in the description below. Anyway, let's get right into the list. The first up, we had Calling from the Darkness. This card is being limited to one. I personally don't think this changes that much. While it does affect some purple strategies like Beelstar that used to play 3, most purple decks only really played one of this card. This is more of a future-proofing nerf that helps solve any issues that might come up with purple recycling its resources over and over and over again, and for right now doesn't really affect that much of the current metagame. Next up, we have Sunrise Buster. Now this is a very impactful nerf. This is an incredibly powerful card that is very, very overloaded in what it does. For 5 memory, we are able to play a yellow or red Tamer. Most of the time, the Tamer will cost 4, so for the rest of the ability, we're only really paying 1 memory, which is minus 3k for every one of our Tamers. This is just an absurdly powerful ability, very good to hit in security, very good to play from our hand, incredibly powerful. It definitely will hurt the Crossheart matchup. An unfortunate side effect of this nerf is that it will also hurt the Yellow Hybrid strategies, as Yellow Hybrid is more of a tier 2/rogue strategy that's not really performing well. It's really kind of banking off the power of this card to help secure its strategy. With this nerf, that deck will probably not be very viable, as well as a significant pain to the Crossheart strategy. Overall, this nerf is probably healthy for the game, as, like I said, this card is very overloaded. It does a lot for just 5 memory in just one card. Next up, we have the Doru Greymon nerf. Doru Greymon is an incredibly powerful card. It's one of the linchpin pieces of the Alphamon strategy, giving Alphamon extra security attacks for every single Doru Greymon in the stack, so that you can sometimes get 2, 3, 4, even 5 extra checks, especially with their ability to unsuspend, along with its even more powerful ability that it gives the stack protection from removal, such as DP reduction and deletion for the entire turn. This made that your Alphamon was nearly uninteractable, especially because Oryukin mode is at a whopping 16k, meaning it's bigger than almost every other Digimon. Couldn't be deleted, couldn't be DP reduced, and there's also cards in the deck that prevented it from being destroyed by bouncing to hand, such as Breath of the Gods, or from being sent back to the security stack like Chaos Degrade. It can just make itself an impervious OTK stack that outright wins the game. This creates some very uninteractive game states where they would just build up their pieces and then instantly delete their opponent's security and end the game that way. Without this Doru Greymon, it is very hard for that deck to function. But on top of that, this also works as a double nerf, as one of the biggest counters to Alphamon was Floodgates, and this also hurts Dex Doru Greymon, Alphamon's best counter to Floodgates. Dex Doru Greymon can only get its effect when it revives from the trash or digivolves over a Doru Greymon. Evolving from the trash is very situational and requires a lot of extra cards and pieces for that to activate, so it was very inconsistent and mostly for purple-based Doru Greymon strategies, which aren't very strong or popular, and for the black strategies, just now that we only have one card to digivolve in our entire deck, it's much more unlikely to get that card and probably not even worth playing the Dex Doru Greymon in the deck in the first place. Overall, this nerf is very healthy for the game. We don't want unhealthy, uninteractive games. We want to be able to play our games of Digimon against our opponent, and this is definitely a much-needed nerf for that strategy. Next up, we have Shoutmon Cross 4. Shoutmon Cross 4 is one of the best cards in the Shoutmon strategy. This severely hurts Crossheart, as this was one of their main rushdown tools and draw tools in their deck. Personally, I believe this nerf was a little bit unjustified, and yes, I do think Crossheart was a top-tier meta contender. It also had some significant counters that we were exploring in the Digimon TCG, such as Black War Greymon, purple decks with Lucemon Chaos mode, such as Minerva Loop. The deck had some natural counters, and it wasn't looking to be the tier 0 threat that it was predicted to be by the Japanese, who, in their format, this deck was absolutely dominant. In our format, we seem to be under more control over this archetype than they did. That said, I do think the strategy was very powerful, and it might be able to adapt even with just one cross 4, maybe forming itself into a solid tier 2 strategy. In my opinion, they probably should have semi-limited the card, but Bandai has not had any habits or any patterns of semi-limiting cards before, so it is hard to expect they'll do so until they actually do that with any given card. Now, those are my quick rundowns of all of the changes that were made, but here are some things that I wish was a little bit different about the ban list. So despite me saying that I don't think Crossheart deserves the nerf, especially since the Sunrise Buster change as well, there is some things that I do wish were different about the ban list other than that. And that is that they maybe could have limited a couple more cards, namely from 3 specific strategies. The first 2 strategies are OTK strategies. I believe the OTK strategies are not very healthy for the health of the game, especially the ones that do not provide any way to really counter them or stop them unless you're playing very, very, very specific niche cards. Those strategies would be Metal Garurumon X, which is one of the best decks of the format, probably the best deck of BT9, BT10, and going into EX3 might still be the best deck. This deck was able to pump out very fast aggression, tons of checks very, very quickly. Because it goes off at its level 5, it is able to do just numerous checks at an accelerated pace while bouncing away blockers, getting rid of any memory blockers, things that are in their way that stop them. They don't die to combat. The only thing that really checks this deck are security bombs, which we do have to pray for a little luck for them to even pop off in the first place. This deck was incredibly powerful, and it blows my mind that after dominating a format and a half, it wasn't really nerfed at all. The other strategy that I wish was nerfed due to OTK power is Grandis Kuwagamon. Grandis Kuwagamon is more of a less consistent version of the other OTK decks. However, with the BT10 support, it gets a lot more consistency, and the deck is able to produce very uninteractive states where it can quickly wipe an opponent's board while removing all of their security stack. This power is really unfortunate, and especially with the increased consistency, it can sometimes play through security bombs by simply using Mimi to accelerate a second or third stack, just keep pushing power and clearing out the opponent's security. If it were up to me, I would have limited at least one card from either of these strategies, mostly the cards that enable these kinds of degenerate OTK plays, such as the promo Were Garurumon and the promo Grand Kuwagamon that allowed Grandis and Metal Garurumon X to absolutely destroy people's security stacks. The third strategy, though, that I think should have deserved some kind of nerf is the security control strategy. Even though I like playing Magna Angemon in a lot of different decks, I play a lot of Mastamon, I do believe that Magna Angemon is a very problematic card. The card has been very good ever since release in the very, very beginning of the game. And in BT8, we got Flame Health Scythe, which allows you to recycle Magna Angemon over and over again while also removing threats. This card is incredibly powerful. I don't think it ever really deserves a full limit, but I do believe this card should have been semi-limited and presents very powerful security control, obnoxious healing strategies that cause games to go to time while also being very hard for a lot of decks to really deal with. If your deck can't deal with security control, it sometimes feels like you're playing a game and wasting time without any ability to actually interact with your opponent, even though the games go on for so long. This is especially prevalent if they nerf the OTK strategies, because if there's no way to stop security control, it can really just out heal and outgrind anything in the game. Overall, though, even though I do have some complaints about the list, I do think this might make for a healthier meta. Without Alphamon, I think there might be more natural checks to the OTK decks in forms of security-style decks such as Mastamon or security control, or even maybe some niche new build of Yellow Hybrid that isn't yet to be discovered. And I do think it opens up room for the EX3 decks to thrive and try some new strategies that way. Anyway, that will be it for today's video. If you have any different opinions or like to just comment on any things I've said in the video, make sure to leave a comment down below. And if you enjoyed the video, do the YouTube thing down below. And I'll see you all in the next one. Peace out.